if possible. Okay. Welcome. We'll move now to the welcome and introduction. And PE is not in, it won't be coming on until about 8 o'clock. So I will do that part of it. P. Newton is not coming in until 8 o'clock. He has sent his apology. Okay. So let us now have a welcome.
Sorry, President Desmond was slated to do it. Is he on?
Oh, Desmond.
Can you just I'm not.
Desmond, are you on?
I am on. I am.
Yes.
Well, I will go ahead. I was not aware, but nevertheless.
Yes, I was going to do it, but go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, LGE.
Welcome. Yes, I will let me welcome all our distinguished Kiwanians. I'm not able to see all of them, but nevertheless, I see LGE, Sandra, Davis, DK, Easton McKinley. I'm not able to see everyone, but let me welcome all our distinguished Kiwanians. I will start with clubs visiting from overseas. Can you identify yourself and your delegation? Are you hearing me?
We are hearing you.
Yes.
LG.
Okay, no club from overseas. All right, I'll move to Division 25. Of course, let me welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Williams. Nice to have you, sir.
Welcome.
25, 24, Division 24. Division 24. No club from Division 24. I move to Division 23 West. Division 23 West.
Good evening, LGE. Desmond.
Good evening. It sounds like DLG Hewitt.
Definitely so, in person.
Nice to have you.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to be a part of your meeting. And good evening to all Kiwanians on the platform.
Good evening.
I'm riding solo. No, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm not riding solo. In your midst is another member from the Kiwanis Club of Spanish Town, which is your guest speaker, which is DLGE Anthony. So we have two members from the Kiwanis Club of Spanish Town. I'm not seeing anyone else yet. I'm hoping that others will join. I'm looking forward to a great meeting, a learning experience.
Thank you, DLG Hewitt. Always nice to have you, sir. And welcome again, DLGE Anthony. Nice, happy that you're a guest speaker this evening. We have others from Division 23 West.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Do we have others from Division 23 West?
Sorry.
No? All right, I'll move to 23 East. Division 23 East.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Kiwanians.
Yes,
how are you
good
doing?
evening, sir.
Good evening.
Roger from Kiwanis Club of Downtown Kingston. Currently, I believe just myself and DLGE Lloyd are on, but other members are joining shortly. Thank you very much for your invitation, and I know this will be a very, very informative meeting, and I know I will enjoy. Thanks again for the invitation.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Happy you could join us. Others, do we have other clubs from Division 23 West? No? So, I'm sorry, not Division 23 West, Division 23 East. Yeah. Division 23 East.
Good evening, LGE. Desmond,
LGE Sandra.
I bring greetings on behalf of my two clubs. the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, and I think around 6 of us are online. And also the Kiwanis Club of JFB Kingston, there's 3 persons outside of me online. We're glad to be joining you this evening, and we look forward to a very interesting and informative meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, LGE Sandra, and your delegation. Thank you. All right, others from 23 East?
Good evening, LGE Desmond.
Good evening.
Happy New Year to everyone. I bring greetings from the Kiwanis Club of St. Andrew. So far we have 4 members, DP Andrea, DP Jody, PVP Viola, and I am DP Blossom. Looking forward to a very interesting meeting.
Nice to have you, and Happy New Year to you too, DP.
Thanks.
All the best, and thank you for joining us with your delegation.
Thank you.
All right, do we have others from 23 East?
Good evening, LGE Desmond.
Good evening.
This is PE Craig from Division 25, KC Outer Many Western. I'm sorry, I missed my call. We are 3 in numbers and looking forward to a very informative meeting, and Happy New Year to everyone online. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, sir, and same to you. And thank you for coming, and welcome to you and your delegation. Others from 23 East? If not, I move to 23 Central.
Good evening, DLG Desmond. This is Director Vivette from the Kiwanis Club of Papine. I am not at this time seeing anyone else from the club, but I'm sure they'll join. Looking forward to a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Director Vivette. Nice to have you. All right. Are we through with Division 23 East? If not, we move to Division 23 Central.
Good evening, DLG.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
I bring a warm greeting from Kiwanis Club of Kingston. I'm Past Director Lloyd. I've not seen anyone else from the club, but I wish you a good meeting, and I hope others will join. Thank you.
Thank you, Past Director Lloyd. Nice to have you, sir. Welcome. Right. Do we have others? 23 Central.
Hi, good evening, LGE Desmond. How are you doing?
I am very well, thank you. And you?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Great.
Well, at this time, I bring you greetings from 23 Central Surrey Online. And at this time, I'm going to claim you as one of our members, as well as President LaShawn is on. So at this time, we have a delegation of 3. Myself, yourself, and President LaShawn. Thank you so much, President. I know you'd catch me up.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, PUEDC. Welcome.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
LGE Desmond.
Yes, sir.
Good evening to you and all the members on the chat. And
Good
to
evening.
my very, very, very good friend, President Junior. I am PPE Dudley from the Kiwanis Club of North St. Andrew. And I know that I am not alone. I am the only Kiwanian from that club. But when I am amongst Kiwanians, you cannot be alone. Eagerly awaiting this presentation. Have a good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, PD Dudley. Glad to have you, sir, in your delegation. Thank you.
Good police.
We have others from Division 23 Central.
Yes, good evening, LGE. There's one. This is Clover Edwards from the Kiwanis Club of Capital City, Vice President Clover Edwards. With me, I have Director Audrey Letman, Chairman Francine, and Chairman Nicole. We are expecting 2 others to join us this afternoon, and it's also it's a pleasure to be online with the team from Kingston Club. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Always nice to have you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Welcome and your delegation. All right. Do we have others?
Good night.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, President Robert from Kiwanis Club of West St. Andrew. Couldn't miss this. Yeah, man, couldn't miss this one. My club coach and my big friend, President Junior.
All right.
Yeah, man. So I bring warm greetings. I expect other members of my club to join, but currently it is online.
Thank you, President Robert. Nice to
and
have
the PR chairman, Marceline Rose, is also online as well from West St. Andrew.
Okay.
Evening.
A delegation of 2. Thank you.
And growing here, right?
All right. Do we have others? Do we have others? No? Okay. Do we have SLP members? Members from SLP clubs? No? Do we have guests of Kiwanians? Guests of Kiwanians? I know we have prospects because, do we have any prospects with us? Okay. No. Well, President Junior.
It's my time, eh?
That's it. Let me welcome everyone. Welcome all those who didn't get to introduce themselves, all the members of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston. Thank you all for coming, and we look forward to a very interesting presentation, very interesting meeting. Over to you, President Junior.
Thank you, LGE. So we'll move to apologies for absence. And I think I have 3 apologies here. DLG is Stan, DLG is Stan, DLG, who is not here again? And PE as well. PE has apologized for his absence. He said that he will be here at about 8 o'clock. Yes. And any other apologies for absence? Any other apologies for absence? Okay. And I've forgotten DLG Willie will also be absent for this meeting. I've been absent for this meeting. Okay. So we'll move to our recognition of birthday and anniversaries. And we'll ask VP Stephen to do that session for us. VP, are you on?
I am on, President.
Very much so.
Very much so. And
Yes.
present and accounted for. Thank you. Special welcome to all our Kiwanians, guests, SLP members, and other persons who are watching this evening. I hope that you find the meeting entertaining as well as informative. At this part of our meeting, we usually celebrate anniversaries, birthdays of Kiwanian members. But this week, that is this week starting Monday through Sunday, we don't have anybody on our record from the Kiwanis Club of Kingston that is celebrating a birthday. So I'd like to just extend to all our guests. We have 125 persons in this meeting tonight. If there's anybody celebrating a birthday, wedding anniversary, graduation, a birth in addition to their family, or unfortunately a death in their family, or any other special occasion, if they would just share it with us, with everybody here, so that we can extend our congratulations or warm whatever it is, depending on the event. So I'm opening the mic if there's anybody here who has a special occasion that they'd like to share. Any more?
VP Stephen.
Yes.
DPR Tour's birthday was about 2 days ago, but I don't remember it being called in last week or this week. So I think we could acknowledge that.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Happy belated birthday to DPR Tour, a long-standing member of this club. We hope that he celebrated the day. I'm not sure if he's in on this meeting, probably still recovering from the festivities, but special birthday greetings to DP Arturo. Anybody else? Any other guests? Going once? Twice, or okay, well, just in terms of sharing with you other persons who have birthdays this week, if you're a boxing fan and all of this talk about greatest of all time, with football, Muhammad Ali, who is considered one of the greatest of all times in terms of boxers, had his birthday today. If he was still alive, he would be 81 years old.
Yes.
And also in terms of recognizable persons, Michelle Obama, First Lady, is 59 this year. So anybody else can extend her special greetings. I think that the Obama years of presidency were quite fulfilling and memorable compared to the future presidents so far. So kudos to Michelle Obama and her husband, Barack Obama, on her birthday today. So President Junior, that's it for anniversaries and birthdays, and back to you.
Thank you, VP Stephen. And we'll now move to sorry, I told him I wasn't feeling too well in my throat tonight. So we'll move now to Kiwanis Education, and LGE Desmond will be doing that section.
Thank you, President Junior.
Yes.
From the Kiwanis International Leadership Guide. The topic is Purpose of the Club Board. Every Kiwanis club has a board of directors to ensure smooth club operations, to lead club initiatives, and to create and uphold the club's vision, all with the club's best interests in mind. Most of the board's tasks are related to these functions: one, administration, decision-making, and strategic planning. Some administrative tasks include determining the good standing status of members in accordance with club policy, setting an annual budget, and this is before October 15 each year, assuring the club complies with applicable government rules and regulations, overseeing the implementation of club policy, keeping club's strategic plan current, assuring the club is meeting its financial obligations, including the annual review of financial statements by either a standing financial review committee or a qualified accounting firm. Finally, other duties as assigned to the board in your club bylaws and policies. That's it for Kiwanis Education, President Junior.
And thank you, LGE, for giving us that. At this time, we are at the central point, or the meat of our meeting. Tonight should be very interesting. Already, we have 136 persons online. And this will be done by Senior Attorney, DLGE, Anthony Williams. Topic for tonight is the rights you did not know you had as a road user, and preview of the new Road Traffic Act. So this should be very interesting, and we are going to be asking PDT Ralston to do the introduction of the guest speaker. PDT.
Thank you, President Junior. Am I being heard?
I'm hearing you, PDT.
Thank you.
Yes, you are.
At last look, we had 135 Kiwanians and friends on the call, which is indicative of the pull that some persons have.
Right.
Mine is the pleasure to introduce a friend who has consented to speak with us this evening. DLGE Anthony A. Williams, LLB with honors, JP, a senior Kiwanian and a strong advocate. I've had a very extensive career as a defender of rights and supporter of the equal application of the law to all. His resume is so extensive and wide-ranging that any attempt to go through it tonight would require an extension of time to this meeting, just for him to begin his presentation. So, President, I took the hatchet to the many pages in order that our anxieties and our expectations can be fulfilled this evening. Educationally, he started at Halfway Tree Primary School through to Arden, where he also was the school challenge coach for over 36 years and caught the top prize on 8 occasions during that period. He attended UWI, the University of the West Indies, and the Norman Manley Law School, and was called to Calabar. No, I'm sorry. He was called to the bar in 1991. Practicing for 31 years, he is a managing partner in the firm USIM Williams and Company, in partnership with our own DP Sharon USIM. He has had extensive practice in civil and criminal, medical negligence litigation, commercial, corporate, and insurance law, and also personal injury cases. My friend has vast involvement in many landmark cases and is well known and respected among his peers as a fearless advocate and aggressive seeker of justice. Equally extensive is his Kiwanis career, where he rose president through the ranks, from having joined the club to becoming president of the Kiwanis Club of Spanish Town, which DLGE Hewitt has claimed. He became president of the club in 2003-04, and later Lieutenant Governor for Division 23 West in 2010-11, and was deemed distinguished by Kiwanis International on both occasions. Along the way, he collected awards too numerous to mention tonight, but they can be made available on request of me, especially for newer Kiwanians to understand who is an ideal Kiwanian. Frank Melhedo, Glenn Bagnell, Mel Osborne Awards. And I gave him the Ralston Nunes Award some years ago for a presentation he made on geese honking in support of each other as they flew. But these are just slight indications of his numerous accolades. My friend achieved CLE certificate in legal education in legal circles, but also in Kiwanis, his CLE was that of a Kiwanis certified trainer. Now, DLG Tony is a proven, courageous, and unafraid leader who have taken on many legal issues of national importance and publicly discussed them in many forums, while also guiding Kiwanians and others through his frequent legal vibes submission in chat groups, which most of us should have seen, which impart information and also position Kiwanis and Kiwanians as strong players within civil society. Something that is encouraged by Kiwanis International, as it reinforces our brand and reputation. He is married to Nadia. They have 3 children, Tonika, Malika, and Ayika. And someone whispered to me that he has reserved, if needed, the name Gabriela. So my fellow Kiwanians and friends, please open your mics and open your minds to welcome and receive my brethren, DLG Anthony Williams, Kiwanian extraordinary here, who is presenting to us on a very topical issue tonight. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you very much, Ralston, and thank you very much, President Stewart, as well. I want to say good evening to all and Happy New Year, although we are, today is the 17th day in the year.
Almost finished the year.
Yeah, but Happy New Year, and I want to wish for all the blessings of Almighty, and that the blessings would be the cumulative width and depth of the Caspian and Indian Sea combined. Now, today, I want to touch on a number of things. I'm not sure of the time I have. You have to give me a briefing. You know, lawyers speak with a brief time. So if you could give me an idea.
Yeah, officially you have 30 minutes, but you can, a little flexibility can be entertained.
Okay, all right. I will send the bill to Ralston.
Make it 20 minutes. Make it 20.
All right. So the new Road Traffic Act is going to be implemented, and if I am to tell you the fulsomeness of the act, we would be here until Christmas morning 2023. And so I don't intend to do that. So what I plan to do is to look at a few provisions and see where we go from there. Now, according to the Minister of State, responsible, that is Mr. Ollie Shaw, he did say that one of the critical reasons why the government implemented the new Traffic Act is because of the massive carnage on the road and the indiscipline on the road, and that the fatalities are just climbing and climbing and climbing. And so he wants the public to be aware of what is happening. So I'll go through some of the changes, just some critical ones that I think that would affect us, because there are quite a number. We will look at some of the old provision, and we will look at some constitutional aspect, and we will look at some of the fines, etc. So the order in which I present them are not in any sequential order. I'm just picking them out randomly. So one of the things, well, first of all, before I get to the new act, let me just speak about one of the changes in the new act. Right now, all along, motorists were really of the view, or is a requirement, that they should have their driver's license and their certificate of fitness and their motor vehicle insurance and so forth. But what the new law has done is really to codify that requirement. And so in section 11 of the act, it says that drivers or owners of motor vehicles should have their license, meaning of registration, their certificate of fitness, their insurance certificate or their cover note, or anything from the insurance company that will satisfy the police that you're okay. Now, under the old act, section 22 did give the police the right to stop a motorist. Now, a lot of persons, including the police, have misunderstood section 22, and that is codified in section 11 of the new act. So the act says under section 11, which is the new act, that a police officer or any member of the transport authority can stop you. Now, when a policeman stop you by whatever way, if he puts up his hand or signal you in whatever way that you are to stop, especially if that policeman is in uniform, well, he has to be in uniform. He has to be in uniform, and that is very clear in the act. Once the policeman stops you, then you are duty bound. You have a legal obligation to stop, and you must stop. If you fail to stop, then the regulation kicks in and automatically that is a fine of $5,000. The previous fine were some, measly sum. What is the problem and the challenge is that police officers are of the opinion, and some motorists too are of the opinion, that a policeman can just stop you, or especially the police officers, that once they stop you, they can stop you and tell you that, oh, we're doing a spot check, or we are doing a little search and so forth. And I am saying that that is unlawful. And, there's legal authority to back that up, right? The police officer, once he stops you, he must have reasonable cause that you have either committed an offense, or you are about to commit an offense, or you are in the process of committing an offense. He must have reasonable cause. He cannot say, Ralston, Desmond, and Nicole, I'm doing a spot check. It is unlawful. And if there are any police officers on this platform or former police officers, I hope that they will transform this principle. And so in the case of Hemans, that is Gary Hemans, right? That case occurred some time ago it was heard in 2012, 2013, and Justice Batts make it very clear at paragraph 56. He says, let me say further that even the account given by the police witnesses, no lawful reason was given by the police for stopping the claimant's vehicle. Nor is there any lawful reason advanced for the desire to search his vehicle for the alleged request for his documents. So don't let anyone fool you that when a police stop you, they have the right to stop you and tell you nonsense about that they are doing in the spot check. They don't have such law. They do not have such power and or authority. Now that is grounded in the Constitution, because under the Constitution, we have what is called the Charter of Rights, the Fundamental Rights and Freedom. And I will read for you what Section 15 of the Constitution says. It says, no person shall be deprived of his personal liberty, save as may be in any of the following cases or circumstances. And it says, 1, upon reasonable suspicion of his having committed or of being about to commit a criminal offense. So here we are seeing the Constitution providing a safeguard for a person's freedom of movement and movement. Section 16 says, no person shall be deprived of his freedom of movement. And for the purposes of this section, the said freedom means the right to move freely throughout Jamaica, the right to reside in any part of Jamaica, the right to enter Jamaica, and immunity from expulsion from Jamaica. Now, so we want to make that clear. Now, there's also a fundamental difference if the motorist is traveling at a time when there is a SOE, which is what we call a state of emergency. And the fundamental difference now is that if a state of emergency is operating, then the police or the security forces have the right to search your vehicle with a warrant, without a warrant. And so the state of emergency would then supersede in that situation. So I just want to make that position very clear. Now, if you look at other aspects of the act, even the police force regulation, it speaks about reasonable cause. It speaks about reasonable suspicion. It speaks about having a proper cause to stop a motorist. So I just want to make that clear. Now, what are some of the reasons, some of the changes, right, in the act? And as I said, there are no particular order, right? Now, as a matter of fact, before I get to that, in the Gary Hemans case, the police and the Attorney General of Jamaica had to pay some serious money to the motorist because the motorist was coming from Elshire. The police had no reason to stop the motorist. They decided to manhandle him, took out their guns, beat him, kick him up, did all sort of things, and the court awarded aggravated damages. Now, under the new system, the e-traffic ticket system is going to work. Therefore, what you're going to find is that you're driving your motor vehicle, you run the red light, or you committed some other offense, maybe driving recklessly or carelessly. And so the the Jamaican Eye is going to pick you up. Once the Jamaican Eye picks you up and that is recorded on their system, then you can get an e-ticket. So you can stay at your home or your office or whatever address is registered on your vehicle documents that the tax office have, and that can be sent to the address that the island authorities have. So the person who will get the ticket will be the owner of the motor vehicle. So if Ralston is the owner of the motor vehicle and I am driving Ralston's motor vehicle and I ran the red light, then that ticket is going to go to Ralston. Because you know the vehicle documents would not be in the driver's name, it would be in the owner's name. All right. Now, one of the things also that is now very critical that we have to pay attention to, and that's section 56 of the new regulation. And section 56 speaks to tires. Now, a lot of us know that it is not good to wear bad tires or to have bad tires on the road, but I specifically want to zero in on section 56. Section 56, let me just get to it, and I want to just put in some very important aspect of section 56. So whilst I'm getting there, it speaks about the tread count of the tires, and the threshold is a 1.6 meter that in terms of height. So it therefore means that for those of us who are not paying attention to our tires, for those of us who are not paying attention to changing the tires, for those of us who are not paying attention to getting proper tires, as a matter of fact, then section 56 also makes it very clear, very pellucid, that it is important that you take proper precaution in relation to the tires. And here's section 56 coming up. This is what it says, and I want to, read it. You know, lawyers are always called to the bar. So when lawyers are doing their presentation, they have to make sure that the bar is nearby, okay? Here's what section 56 says. A person shall not operate on a road a motor vehicle equipped with tires which are not pneumatic tires, and such tires shall conform to the specification of the tire manufacturer. The tires must be approved by the Bureau of Standards. So for those Kiwanians and those of us who are on the platform, if you operate a tire business or anything associated with tires, you can't just purchase tires from overseas or locally. It has to be in conformity with the laws and approved by the Bureau of Standards. It also says, and here comes the interesting one, which is the 1.6. It says, a person shall not operate on a road a motor vehicle with a tire unless that tire displays throughout, emphasis throughout, across its breadth and around its entire circumference, a pattern which is clearly visible and has a tread of at least 1.6 millimeters in depth, except in the case of a motorcycle which has a tread depth of at least 0.8 millimeters. And such tire shall not be so worn or damaged that the fabric used in the construction of the tire is exposed or is in such a state of disrepair that it may or is likely to cause or causes danger to passengers and other road users, or damage to the surface of the road. Or it says it must be constructed and fitted so that the metal part of the wheel comes in contact with the surface of the road. And it must have a break or cut in excess of 2.5 centimeters or 10% of the maximum width of the tire, whichever is greater, in any direction on the outside of the tire of a depth that reaches the fabric and is used in the construction of the tire. So essentially, it also says in section 57 that persons have a duty to maintain their tires. And this is one of the codification. So we basically know that we should have good tires. But what has happened now is that this is now in the legislation. And so you can be ticketed for bad tires, and the fines can be hefty. In relation to persons who love motorcycles, whether for sporting or whatever the case may be, you can't sell a motor vehicle. Sorry, you cannot sell a motorcycle without a helmet. Therefore, the two items in Jamaican parlance are married. So once a motorcycle is going to be sold, a helmet must be one of the component parts. For persons who have outstanding traffic tickets, we are required to settle those traffic tickets before January 31st. If the tickets are not settled come February 1 and your driver's license need to be renewed, it will not be renewed. So if there are any persons who have traffic tickets, or you know of any friend, relative, Kiwanian, brother, church sister, church brother, uncle, you name it, good relative, good friend, tell them go and settle their traffic tickets, because their driver's license will not be renewed. It is going to form part of the thing, right? And all riders of motorcycles will be required to wear a helmet. Now, another feature too is that under the current system, we have private driver's license and general driver's license, and that will change. There'll only be 3 categories of driver's license. One is Class A, which is for cyclists. Class B, which is called for private vehicles, and the other one is Class C, commercial. All right, so you won't see the general coming up. Now, the Island Traffic Authority, ITA for short, will have the power and the authority to revoke and suspend drivers' licenses if they find that there are breaches and so forth. Okay. Now we come to the issue of warrants. We have seen over the recent months, and by extension, a couple of years ago, especially in the public sector, and I'm referring to those with the taxi men and the public transportation sector. These men would come and they reel out, a whole host of traffic tickets, that they have incurred for, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, sometimes over 2 years. Well, there's a new system, the e-ticketing system is such that once your ticket is not paid, then warrants are going to be issued and they'll be sent to your home. So the police need not come to your home to serve your warrant. That warrant is now under an electronic system, and it can be sent to your home. So you will see a warrant, turn up at Anthony Williams' home, or Director Roy's home, Ralston home, because you had outstanding tickets. And so therefore, gentlemen and ladies on the platform, for those of us who are not checking our letterboxes and who only go in a letterbox like every twice in 6 months, you can't tell the police that we didn't see the warrant there, because once it is issued, it is issued. So it is really an efficient way of trying to ensure that the traffic mess, is tied up. Now, some of us employ drivers for our various businesses. It could be you have a transport business, you have a rent-a-car company business, etc., and persons are required to drive, especially for those who are in some kind of industry, manufacturing, hotel, reselling. And one of the recommendations the traffic authority is saying is that before you hire someone, go and ask for an abstract. Ask for a driving abstract. In other words, you want to employ Anthony Williams as a driver. Don't just employ him. Don't just ask him if he has ever had any traffic tickets or has breached the law or committed any offenses. I'm going to tell you no, right? And it's the norm for anyone who wants a job. Sometimes they're not as honest, bread and butter counts. And so they may not be as honest as they can. So it is recommended that you ask for what is called a driving abstract. Now, and I did mention to you that the driver's license will not be renewed if there are any outstanding tickets. Now, we want to deal with alcohol, so that for persons who are, so there have been changes in terms of the prescribed alcoholic limit for persons with a driver's license. The breath alcohol concentration levels has been adjusted, and the prescribed limits for persons who are learner drivers. So for persons who are driving with a learner's permit, they must not exceed 0.01% or 10 micrograms of alcohol per 100 milliliter of breath. I'm not a chemist, but the long and short of it is that the government, when passing the legislation, is concerned about the mayhem on the road, the continuous mayhem on the road. Persons who, are just driving recklessly and carelessly, and they lose control. I remember, Ralston, when I was doing my first driver's lesson, and I always tell my children, and I was very anxious to go on the road, very, very anxious to go on the road. And so the driving instructor said, "Come, Sir Willie, come around." And so he drove to the location, he parked, he got out of the vehicle, and he said, "Come around, young man." And I was now in the driver's seat. So I asked him for the key for the vehicle, because remember, first time being in a vehicle now, ready to drive, trying to learn to drive. The instructor said to me, "You want the key?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Are we not going to drive?" He said to me, "Which key are you talking?" I said, "The key for the vehicle." He said, "No, man. We're going to stay right here and drive." And I said to him, "What do you mean by right here and drive, sir?" He said to me, "Tell me something. You know the controls of the vehicle?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "You know all the." I said, "No, sir." He said, "Then where are you going to go on the road?" And the long and short of it, he said to me, every driver must know the controls of their vehicle. Every driver must be in control of the vehicle. So when we hear that vehicles get out of control, is that correct? That vehicles get out of control? No, man. Is it driver lose control of the vehicle? Every vehicle must be under the control of the driver. So the driver must control the vehicle, not the vehicle control the driver.
Not the vehicle controlling the.
The driver must control the vehicle, but not the vehicle controlling the driver. And so what the government is trying to do is to ensure that persons who are driving with proper sensibility. And if they have to drink, we know the phrase, if you drink, don't drive. And if you have to drink with moderation. And so the legislation has made it codified, so that if this alcoholic level goes above, then it will be applicable. And for the persons who are the instructors, whether an instructor meaning any person who sits beside that learner, knowing or ought to know that that learner has an alcoholic content, which from the very look, you can observe someone, you can smell it, you two are going to be in problem. And so the driver, who is the holder of a driver's license, will be found to be in breach, and that's a $12,000 fine. For the person who is the driver now, not the learner, then they will be fined $50,000, a serious money, or 14 days, or $50,000 or 14 days in prison, plus 14 demerit points, and it may lead to the suspension of your license. Now, another aspect of the new system has to do with the persons who are getting their driver's license, new learners. So we may have our daughters or sons. Some of us may operate a driving school. Some of us may just be the person, trying to teach someone, to drive. Now, under the new system, you have to have, for the learners, a medical certificate from a registered medical practitioner. That practitioner must certify the applicant to be fit to drive a motor vehicle, or they may set out the conditions under which they can drive. The new applicant would have to produce 3 identical photographs taken, and the photographs must not be later than 6 months. So you can't produce a photograph that you took in excess of 6 months or last year or 3 years ago. So the other requirement is a proof of age, certified, copy of the birth certificate, or a valid government issued identification. Must also have proof of identity and proof of the place of residence as well. So these are some of the new regulations, that are coming in. And remember as well that unless and until your traffic tickets are cleared, then the island authorities will not be required. They will not renew your driver's license, and we want that, to happen. Now, there are some fines, and some of them are, well, it's pretty numerous, but I'll just outline a few. There have been some changes. No valid certificate of fitness. Those were formerly some small sums, $800 and so forth. We're looking at about $3,000. Unlicensed motor vehicle, $10,000. Exceeding the speed limit by 10 MP, 10 meters per hour to 20 meters, 5,000. And those were so the previous one was 800. Exceeding by 21 to 30 meters, 30 meters per hour, 7,005. Exceeding by 31 miles per hour or more, 10,000. So the fines are getting more and more exorbitant. Failure to stop when so required by a police constable, $5,000. No headlamp on your vehicle, $3,000. No registration plate light on your vehicle. And we're looking at 2,500. And there are a whole list of items. No muffler, unlawful use of the siren, failing to give credence to an emergency vehicle, all of those. So when we hear the sirens of a police car or vehicle or the ambulance and so forth, we just have to ensure that that can be an offense as well. So it is important that we understand that these are critical developments in relation to the new act. Now, I want to also make mention of the fact that under the old legislation and even this new legislation, that persons are required to produce their driver's license. Sometimes you don't have the driver's license, and there are some police officers who, unfortunately and regrettably, do not know the law or seem to abuse their authority. And what do you do when you are faced with that situation? You don't have your driver's license on your person. The first thing that the police officer would be required to do is to ask you for your driver's license. If you do not have your driver's license, then it is not an offense there and then for not producing your driver's license. The law requires that you can produce an alternative means of identification. So you may have your worker's ID, you may have your voter's ID, you may have your passport coincidentally on you. In other words, any form of identification. And if the officer is satisfied as to your identity, then he can ask you to produce your driver's license within 5 days. So let me repeat. Not having your driver's license on you is not the offense. But if you are able to satisfy the police officer who has requested of you to produce a driver's license by one of those means, voter's ID, your worker's ID, but the condition is that the police officer would have to be satisfied as to proof of identity. And then he can allow you to produce the driver's license within the 5 days. If you produce the driver's license within the 5 days, then the law says no offense would have been committed. All right, so I want to pause here or stop here so that
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yes, Tony. Is there something in the new legislation that says if you don't produce your document on demand, there is a fine for it? And secondly, in asking me to produce my document, will the officer have to tell me why, what have I committed, why is requiring me to produce my document, or he can just decide that he wants to see my document?
No. And we get back to, we get back to the Constitution. Because in the Heman's case, Justice Batts made it quite clear that a policeman asking you for your documents cannot just arbitrarily says, can I see your documents? But they do. You know, they do. They do ask you for the document.
Every time.
And they do ask you for the document. But the situation is that the right of the policeman to ask you for your documents must be contemporaneous with. In other words, there must be reason for him to ask you for the document. And the reason would be that he would say, Mr. Williams, Mr. Mark Anderson, Mr. Rupert Whittaker, I saw you break the stoplight. I saw you did a dangerous overtaking. I saw you did A, B, C, D, E. May I have your documents? For him to say, I am doing a spot check, or I feel like, asking you, that is going to, one, breach the Charter of Rights. It certainly is going to breach the very freedom of movement that the legislation speaks to, which is the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And again, I want to read for you what it says. It says, that's section 16, right? No person shall be deprived of his freedom of movement. And for the purposes of this section, the said freedom means the right to move freely throughout Jamaica, the right to reside in any part of Jamaica, the right to enter Jamaica, and immunity from expulsion from Jamaica. And in the He-Man's case, coming to you, Mark, and in the He-Man's case, the judge made it clear that when the police officers decided to stop the driver, their intention was to search the vehicle, their intention was to search the persons, and they could not come up with a reason as to why they want to search the vehicle or to search the persons. And so the judge cogently postulated that persons in Jamaica who are driving motor vehicles, they're not to carry around passes with them. He said, why should persons be driving their vehicles and carry a pass? Because of the right of freedom. So that right of the policeman to stop a motorist is not just an absolute right. It is a right that is contingent on reasonable cause.
Yes, Tony. Junior year, Stuart.
Yes.
But this thing I'm so frequently.
It does.
You'd wonder. Now I've been stopped many times, and most recently, within a week ago.
Yes.
That was the same question. That was the same coming from Montego Bay to Kingston,
Yes.
things in St. Anne. And they said us doing a spot check and they want to check. But my problem is, how do you deal with that? Because you have to be careful.
Well, you're right. And you're right. And I will make a suggestion as to how you deal with it. What I find is if you say to a police officer, officer, can you tell me under what section of the Road Traffic Act are you asking me to produce my document? When you do that, I can tell you, 99 out of 100, or maybe 90 out of 100, they feel checked. They feel queer. They feel now that they are dealing with a motorist who knows their rights. I am not suggesting to anyone that they should be, should be trasonical, and by that I mean boastful, bragging. I have been stopped by the police a lot of times. A lot of times. They don't know me, I don't know them, and they don't need to know me, and I don't need to know them. They're police, they're doing their duty. And they will say, and I will say to them, officer, would you be so kind enough to let me know under what section of the Road Traffic Act are you asking me for my documents?
Right away, I'm going to suspect you're alone.
Yes, and they do. And what you can do, you can preface it by saying, officer, did I commit an offense? He will say, no, but I'm doing a spot check. So what section? Would you enlighten me, please? That sort of thing. All right. But, so our tone, our aptitude, our mannerism, also play a very important. Yes, it plays a very important role, because you may come up on the wrong police. Very bad.
Mark is on.
Yeah.
Mark on this.
There are some hands in the chat.
Yes. Mark, Mark.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I think earlier on,
excellent.
You spoke of the Jamaica sending an automated ticket or something to that effect.
Yeah.
How does the Act, if it does at all, treats with our Jamaican scenario whereby people live on the gully bank or whatever? Is there something in the Act that requires the motorists to, if they change address, to update the system, etc.? Because I note it seems like you're using the same postal system, which is very challenged, versus maybe a digital system whereby everybody could provide an email address, perhaps, which would be far more efficient for electronic delivery.
A good question, Mark. I don't know what to say with that, but what I do know, and you'd have to remember now that once you own a motor vehicle, because as you know, there are several persons who own a motor vehicle and they can't drive, right? So an owner of a motor vehicle is not necessarily the same as somebody who can drive. There's no requirement that you need to drive in order to own a motor vehicle. And so the tax office requires you to state your address details, your residence and so forth. And that is why they are saying that they're going to send a ticket now to the owner of the vehicle, because you must know who had your motor vehicle at the material time when the offense was committed. So I suppose, in time that, will be addressed, right? I just want our attendees, participants to understand and appreciate that this system where persons have this massive amount of ticket, or even if you have one traffic ticket outstanding, right? It's a more modernized system. It's going to be more effective. Under the new system, once the police issues you a ticket and uses that traffic gun, and then punches in the information. That information is sent to all the relevant authorities. The tax office gets it, the police department gets it, the transport authority gets it, and it's and the traffic court gets it. So even if you loses your ticket, it just generates it, and if you don't pay the ticket within the time, it is, you are deemed that you have disobeyed the ticket. If you're going to challenge the ticket, then you go to the
court there.
To the courthouse, which is the traffic court, or wherever is a designated area, and say that you're challenging it, right? But you have to do so within the time. So if the ticket says you are to appear in court on the 22nd of December, then make sure you appear in court on the 27th, on the 22nd.
Yeah, if you're aware, because it might not reach the Gully Bank, or even if you do have postal service, is every 6 months you see such delivery. I think that is a very glaring issue with how it is currently structured. It's not like the US that, you know, it's where the most communities where the plan, and they do have a requirement. You change address, you update the system. You go on digitally and you update it. It's a very glaring thing, and it's going to cause a lot of problems and a lot of courthouse. I've moved very quickly on to two others. You give some very long specification, re my tire. Is the policeman going to have the equipment and to check that before he tickets me on spot?
Well, a very good question, Mark, because I myself don't know what is 1.6 meters.
Precisely.
and I'm sure
if the Bureau standard they approve that latest
How you
one,
going though? How
the
you going?
on the water that never tests on whatever.
All right. Well, I think the bottom line is that what the act is basically saying, in a nutshell, is gentle people, make sure that you inspect your tires.
So what you're looking for?
Sorry?
What are you looking for when you look at the tires?
When you look at the legislation speaks about the tread marks, and so you know the groove and tongues in the tires.
Yeah.
So once your tires are getting smooth or have past smoothness, I can tell you, you know, you really don't need the police to stop you on the road,
right?
Because once a tire blows out, you know, especially if you're traveling at a moderate speed, you know, believe you me, it can cause your life.
Yeah.
It can cause serious injury, damage, possibly fatal to yourself and or the passengers. So essentially,
I'm not an ignorant person in the chat, but do you know that some motorcycle tires now
are smooth,
untreaded? They're smooth.
Yes.
I can understand that, but we'll get to the people in the chat, but just on the same time business and the tread count, Tony.
Yes.
I learned something not recently, but some time ago. You know that there's a mark on the tire itself. My brother who lives in Toronto, maybe a couple of years ago, and I was driving my car, but the thing looked good to me, using the Jamaican standard. But he looked at it. There is a between where you have between where you have the grooves.
Yes.
There is a mark between it at a certain level. There is. I've seen it. And once it gets to that level, in other words, it still don't look so smooth.
Yes.
But you can see it. On a good tire, it would be way below.
Yes.
Groove. But on a tire that is worn, you will see it. It might not be worn enough that you can see. But you'll see it up to the top at the surface of the tire.
So the essence of the legislation, where I'm saying to all on this platform, is that for those of us who have not paid much attention, or we'll say, look here, I'm going to stretch my budget to purchase a tire. This new legislation is saying that if your tire depth and width on the front has lost its groove and you have missed the 1.6 meter height, or not height, measurement in terms of groove and tongue, then you're going to be in some problems, right? I see some ladies' hands up, and I think it would be so nice to ensure that we have the ladies.
Okay.
All right, sorry. Let me help in this area, because I'm looking at the hands, and some are higher than some in terms of the priority.
Okay,
so I'm gonna go with that. The one, I gotta make out this name. 1 second. It's okay. DLG Hewitt. He's at the top of the list in terms of the hands in the list. So I'm gonna ask him to go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have three quick questions to DLG Anthony. What if, ladies change their bags and they leave things? What if you were driving another car and you did not have any form of ID with you? As you mentioned, a number of different identification things that you could use. What if you did not have any at all?
Okay.
All right. Well, under the new legislation, Section 11 makes it mandatory that we are to, every driver of a motor vehicle must produce for inspection, or must have in the vehicle, the license, certificate of fitness, insurance cover note, etc., etc., etc. So there's a mandatory requirement right there. And you do ask, what if you don't have it? There is a principle in law called strict liability, and strict liability means strict. So this is one of the things that the government is using to clamp down on bad road usage, and to ensure as well that your vehicle and my vehicle are protected. And so when we have these, it's important because they're going to match the documents with your identification. So good question, but the legislature does now make it mandatory that you must have these documents in your vehicle. If you don't, then the next requirement is that when the police issue the summons, you come and see me after.
Okay, all right. Two quick ones. Did you say headlight or headlamp? No headlight or no headlamp? Which one?
1 second. It says here, wait, I just had the.
And in the same breath, no muffler or what? Distorted muffler?
Yeah.
No muffler.
1 second. No headlamp on the vehicle, right? $3,000. Yeah, headlamp, yes. Or no tail lamp on the vehicle, 2.5. Failure to fit or maintain headlamp.
Just a minute, DLG. What are they really speaking about? Headlamp, I know that it would be the section with the glass and everything, differently from headlight.
Well, they speak about headlamp and headlight too, right? So what they have done is to introduce a whole, new set of fines, and the fines have increased significantly and dramatically. So they are trying to get, I don't want to say revenue, but you're understanding mischief that the government is trying to avoid, right? So everything, even smoke, they classify it as, I'm trying to
emission.
Yeah, the emission, right? The emission. Even those, they're targeted as well.
I understand.
Yeah.
And then they say no muffler, or they're talking about distorted muffler.
Yes.
Because the muffler starts on way up, so would it be no muffler or distorted muffler?
Both. Even those persons who are failing to stop at pedestrian crossing, $5,000, and failing to stop at school crossing. Yeah, $5,000, right? Failing to stop or obey the red light or the stop sign, $4,000. Okay, so the fines have increased dramatically, right?
I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to get to the next person. That's LGE Sandra Davis.
Thank you very much. Good evening, fellow Kiwanis guests. DLG Anthony, very excellent and very informative. I just have two questions. Is it legal for a police to just turn on their siren whenever he or she is in a line of traffic and are not going on any emergency just because they do not want to wait in the traffic?
How would you know?
Let me explain why I said that. I've seen a number of occasions a policeman come out of a community and him driving in the traffic, and because all of a sudden now the traffic not moving fast enough for him, all of a sudden now him push on him siren and move out.
Probably get a call.
For the front, him slow down back and him cruise.
No,
let our guest speaker answer the question.
The difficulty with that, LG Sandra, is that neither you nor I will know the legitimacy of that siren, and you can't say that it is an improper use of the siren. You can't know, and it will be very difficult. So, from instinct, some of them may abuse it, but it will be very difficult to know, and I wouldn't go down that road.
All right. Another one is, can a policeman issue a ticket when, say, somebody is in a line of traffic, they're on the right-hand side per se, and going down, come to a road to turn, which is a one-way, you only can turn right? Because you're going right, because a one-way, and you don't put on your indicator. You can get a ticket for that?
Yes, you can. You can.
But you're not obstructing anything.
And you don't have to obstruct. You have a duty to inform the motorists behind you and in front of you that you are going to make a turn. When you're driving on the road, you're driving not for yourself, you're driving for other road users. And that is why the manufacturer of the vehicle deliberately, I must say, put the right indicator to the front and the right indicator to the back, so that you can notify the motorist to approaching you and the motorist behind you as to what you need to do. And if you turn without putting on that indicator, it is, as a matter of fact, there's also one of the fines in the regulation is failing to give a hand signal too. So although you may be driving the latest SUV, the Benz and the Prado and the you name it, and the Jaguar, etc., the lovely air condition and thing, nice music, right? And you put on your indicator, but the circumstance may warrant where you may have to, give a hand signal, where you have to crack that window.
For the hand signal, I can understand giving a hand signal. You put on your indicator, right? And you want to beckon to the driver. You're not in the lane that you want to actually turn. I can understand that. But if you're in... But all right.
But the long and short of it, Sandra, is that, as I said, you must indicate to the person, that is the motorist, in front of you, coming in the opposite direction, as well as the motorist behind you, your intention. They don't know what you're going to do. They're not in your vehicle. And if you fail to do that, it's a ticket, and it will be a proper ticket.
Yeah, but I believe the policemen must also be fair when they're doing that.
In what sense?
All right. I got a ticket for that.
You were not referring to a situation where you have a right.
And what I'm saying, I don't have a problem in paying the $400, but I came around not having on my indicator, and the police gentleman pulled me over, and I said, "What is on for?" Oh, I didn't put on my indicator.
You weren't talking about.
No.
You weren't talking about that. Okay.
No. All right. I put on it. Hold on a sec. Let me just finish. I put on the indicator, and I didn't put on my indicator, and I turned. I said, he stopped me. So I said, "Officer, what did stop me? What happened?" "Oh, you didn't put on." I said, "You didn't put on my indicator." Well, I now learned that that's an offense. However, right after he stopped me and writing up the ticket for me, 2 taxi men come round, did the same thing, no indicator, no hand signal, and them gone. Because guess what?
They have retainers.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Let us move on to, because I don't think we can get a complete answer there. Well, we can figure what's happening. Andre, come up, Andre. You're next. If I don't, okay, good. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying this presentation, but the question I want to ask is, you made mention of the authorities that is now given to the Island Traffic Authority. My question, if the examination depot, the examiner now null and void, because in certain instances, a driver's license to be revoked, either a judge or the examiner. Removing plates from a vehicle, that is not done by the police or the traffic authority. That is usually done by the examiner. I've also noticed that I've seen members of the Island Traffic Authority stopping white plate vehicles.
Yes.
For whatever reason, I see them removing plates from those vehicles. Is that legal?
It depends on the section that they are operating on. It depends on the section that they are operating on, because they may receive information about that particular vehicle that you and I don't know, and so they may have the power to take that vehicle off the road or to remove the decal, so to speak. So I could just say, blanketly, it depends on the circumstance.
Okay, let's
So
move on
with
to
the examiner,
go on, finish up, go ahead.
under the new legislation, the examiner, is there any use for the examiner anymore? Since it is now the Island Traffic Authority giving
No, the
driver's
examiner is a certified authority under the Act, and therefore the examiner is important, because if you're going to renew your certificate of fitness as well as getting your driver's license, the new legislation speaks to it under section 155, 156, and so forth. So you do need the certifying examiner to ensure that you are a fit and competent person, and that you know the road code, you pass the physical test, and you pass the road code tests, etc. So there's not going to be any extinction, of the examiner. They are very important, and the law still makes provisions for them.
Okay, thank you.
Before I go to Stephen Greg, though, let me just clarify something. When you said examiner, you are talking about the person at the depot, or you mean the person?
Yeah, no, I'm referring to the person at the depot, the motor vehicle examiner, because remember too that in the event that there are motor vehicle accidents, someone has died, or there's a dangerous driving or a careless driving, the police can request that motor vehicle to be examined for a number of reasons, for fitness, for roadworthiness, etc. And they can do what is called I'm trying to remember the phrase, to look at the vehicle itself on the various marks, and those can tell you the velocity at which the vehicle was traveling, and based on the marks they can tell you who was wrong and who was right.
But there's just one thing. The last time I think I went to get a car tested, they didn't drive the car. It seemed as if they weren't driving cars. I don't know if there's a new instruction that you don't drive the vehicle.
It was COVID period.
It was the COVID period.
That was it.
Yeah, I went to renew my vehicle as well last year, and a number of vehicles, including my motor vehicle, were not being tested because of the COVID requirement. However, my understanding is that the government has given instructions for the vehicles to be for that process to resume. But it was due to the COVID period, and one can understand.
President Junior, I move a motion that the time is now 8:32, that the meeting be extended by an additional 10 minutes to complete the business.
Oh, 10.
Well, you can move it further, but that's my motion.
Right, okay.
Seconded.
Need half an hour.
Half an hour. Could we go to half an hour and just keep it within that time? I was thinking. Half an hour? Who is going to second that?
I do, President.
Seconded, President Junior.
All right, let us go for that. And
Junior, can police accept photocopies of car documents?
Yes, they can accept photocopies of car documents if and only if those photocopies are certified by the relevant authority. So if your driver's license is misplaced, or your registration certificate, or your this, You simply go to the tax office. Once they are satisfied as to the authenticity and identity of you and the vehicle documents, they can write, this is a certified copy of et cetera, et cetera. And you have it along with you, and the legislation also makes provision for that. Section 11, subsection 1, and subsection 2 as well makes provision for that.
Okay, Stephen Gregg now.
Thank you. Hello, Council.
Greetings, my brother and friend.
Yes, Anthony, thank you. First of all, great presentation, and thank you for sharing all of that information. Very well put together presentation. I have one comment, if you will allow me, and then a question that follows the comment. I've always maintained that in our country, we don't have a problem with laws and regulations, but the enforcement of that. And in regards to the traffic situations, it's very obvious to me, and I'll give you 3 examples. The situation where you mentioned about alcoholic content that is now prohibited under the law. I'm not sure if there's any operational breathalyzer test machines in the island currently. You also have the situation of motorcyclists not wearing a helmet. And by my unscientific survey, I would say about only 2 in 10 cyclists now wear helmets.
Yes.
And you can go even further to minibuses, public passenger vehicles that are not supposed to be tinted or playing music, also breaching the law. So I say all of that in the context that in your research or in your observation, do you think that the JCF, the ITA, or the government is going to take a radical step with this legislation to enforce these additional rules to the traffic users? Or are we just going to have a piece of legislation that is very idealistic, but is not enforced?
Well, you know, when I listen to the minister and I've read in my extensive research the rationale behind the implementation of the new regulations, it has to do with the increasing number of fatalities. And they say that the statistics are showing that the age group that the persons that were high in the numbers were 25 to 29, and motorcyclists were very high in the number. And what they're also saying is that a number of persons were not wearing seatbelts, and also the drinking driving scenario. And it is instructive that the 25 to 29 age group was put into the category, because these are the younger generation who feel that they can just do anything and anything. And I believe that the government has demonstrated some level of seriousness in terms of enforcing. And that is the very reason why they have introduced a legislation to make it work on effective February 23. As to whether or not it will actually reduce the traffic on the road, I don't know, because it has to do with our own behavior on the road. For some people, you could increase the fine to $1 million. They don't care. If we take our taxi drivers, and I must confess that we have some very excellent taxi drivers on the road. I must put out that proviso. Decent taxi drivers, male and female, and you know, they abide by the road code, but we have a large number on the other hand. So I think, Stephen, that the government is very serious about it, and I'm sincerely hoping that there will be some changes to the madness, and the numbers would reduce. I mean, last year alone was over 400. You know, it's ridiculous. We have 365 days that make 1 year, and you have the number of fatalities surpassing the number of days in a year. It's crazy.
I think that we as a country need to change the culture of driving, and this legislation is a step in the right direction. But it involves a commitment by the government and the people to try and change things.
I agree.
Okay, we have 4 hands up in the. Thank you, Stephen. We have 4 hands up. And next one is David Dawkins. Let's try and keep it moving quickly.
All right, good night. Two quick ones. Even after Justice Batts gave his pronouncements against the illegal stop and search by law enforcement officers, the system appears to accept perhaps minor inconveniences that still occur. And I suspect that this is because of ignorance, even though the learned Justice Batts had asked that the police, the commissioner and INDICOM make known his results.
Yes.
Is there anything being done by the state to make our citizens more aware of these rights? That's one question. Two, quickly, is does the Bureau of Standard now have instruments that will measure the level of drunkenness, of intoxication of individuals? And this is against the background that we had law enforcement officers with radar guns that were not working, that had no form of standardization at all. How do we know the level of intoxication that may arise within the society?
Those are two good questions, David. I don't know what is happening at the Bureau of Standards. What I do know is that the legislation, section 56, 57, speaks to the tires. It also speaks to the specification. It also mentions about snow tires as well. So for those persons who are importing tires, the legislation that is section 50, between 56 to 59, speaks to the type of tires that you have to have. And so the Bureau of Standards is under a duty and an obligation to ensure that tires that are being sold in Jamaica meet those standards, because if they fail, then the tire suppliers are going to fail. And when the tire suppliers fail, it means that the motorists are going to fail. And when the motorists fail, it will be serious catastrophe for our nation. In terms of the relevant instrument to do the breathalyzer tests and so forth, that is where the administrative aspect comes in by the government, and they would have to make sure that they get the right quantity of breathalyzer, and also that they educate the public. Now, one of the things I find very disconcerting is that the government is speaking about the new legislation, effective February 1, effective February 1, effective February 1, but they're not doing anything about educating the public. They say they will go on a massive education drive, but thank God for Kiwanis, in that this is what we're doing. We're educating the public, and we are also empowering our own selves. And so, I really thank God that I'm a member of the Kiwanis movement. And so this is one of the avenues. And so what we have to do as Kiwanians is to make sure that we fulfill the sixth object of Kiwanis International, right? Which is to ensure that we are promoting public awareness, right? And to keep matters that emanate, from the public into the eyes of the public. Because unless we educate the public, they're going to be in the dark. And I think the government needs to step up, and I think we as Kiwanis as well, and I hope the other Kiwanis clubs that are here will use the opportunity to continue to educate the public. We have, for example, the Bail Act. The government has changed the legislation, concerning the Bail Act. And these are things that affect people's rights, people's liberty. And I can tell you, as a senior counsel, that I really don't know why the government is changing the Bail Act. I don't know. I don't know why. But we need to educate the public. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next person is PE John. Your time.
I'm sure you're controlling that.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Firstly, DLGE Anthony, I am learning from the first statement when you started your presentation. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Quick question. Is it lawful for an officer, a police officer, to just come down a full stretch of vehicles and collect everyone's driver's license, and then use, apparently he has a machine that produces tickets, and he'll just reload all the tickets and then all the drivers have to collect it from him.
Well, as I don't know of any such authority.
Oh dear.
And as I said, I don't know that any policeman have that authority to do it, because
Right.
Section 11 speaks to the fact that the police has the authority to stop a motorist, right? And,
Right.
and upon request. But that request is not in absentio. It is not, it is conditional on something. You have to have a reason. So for a policeman to come and say, hey, you know, I just need to see a driver's license, and then him run the ticket, and no. That is a breach of the fundamental right that we spoke to earlier on, Section 16 of the Constitution. And Justice Batts, in the case of Hemans, make it very clear that motorists, including you and I and every member on this platform, have no reason to carry around a pass. Why should we be carrying around a pass? He says, there's no reason for us to carry around a pass. So we have to assert our rights in a dignified manner. Remember, I say dignified, all right?
Right.
Because we have some policemen who can be ignorant, okay? But I want to make it clear, no police have the right to request any vehicle documents arbitrarily, randomly, surreptitiously. They don't.
Can
Yeah,
I
they don't.
put it just in perspective, based on what happened to me a few months ago? I was parked, of course, I know this is an offense, parked in a non-parking zone, but I was actually attending to my child, so that's why I pulled over. There is no parking spot on that road itself. So there are a stretch of businesses, but there's no parking for any of the businesses. So I understand that. I was still in the vehicle, of course, and the police officer approached the car and he said, "Can I have your license, please?" And I said, "What's the reason?" But he was in uniform, so I didn't want to seem like I was, you know, not doing what he was requesting. So I pulled out my license and I said, "Officer, is there a reason? Have I done something wrong?" And he said, "I soon come back." And I'm like, by this time he has my driver's license, and I'm like, this kind of feel like scamming. And he goes in and he sits down in his car. And then I realized he took license from other persons and they're all lined up at his car waiting on their driver's license.
Well, did the policeman inform you why he wanted your driver's license?
No.
Well, I'm gonna tell you and everyone this. And don't think that it is because I'm a lawyer, right? I may have some more tenacity, but you have to treat your driver's license like your credit card. The rule is once you take out your credit card and you're going to give it to a provider, right? You follow your credit card. Your driver's license is no different. So if the policeman is going to move from your vehicle A to his police vehicle, which is behind you, or 2 lanes or 3 lanes, go down there. Go down there.
Tricky for me because I had my infant in the car.
Yeah, but I must tell you though that if you park in a no parking zone, even although there were no other space, I would say that you have committed an offense.
Right, that's why I say I understand that was the offense, but I wanted to know it based on how he dealt with it, because I wouldn't have known that was it until after he gave me back. So I know it was an offense, but I just wanted to know if it was lawful based on how he conducted himself.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay.
But even if you're still in reasonable basis to ticket you after the fact, maybe he didn't even realize the offense and just go on to check the system to come back and harass you on that basis.
Yeah, but I don't see that as an offense because she did say she had stopped pulled over to tend to her child, that by itself is not an offense because she is doing the safe thing there by pulling off of the road. So unless the officer should have informed her that he noticed that she's parked at a no parking sign.
In the vehicle.
Yeah, although you're still in the vehicle, the law doesn't look at you being in the vehicle. The offense has to do with the vehicle being in a no parking zone. And what is the meaning of parking? Parking doesn't mean that the engine has to be off. The vehicle has come to a rest. Rest, R-E-S-T. And
Isn't that different than no stopping, which is what she did? She stopped. As opposed to park, you have no stopping and you have no parking.
Yeah, no stopping and no parking. What is parking?
Okay. I want us to move on, but maybe I could just clarify. Does the law distinguish between parking and stopping? That would end it.
Yeah, I know there is some case law about what is parking. I would have to refresh my memory, and when I do, I will post it to Stuart or Ralston, and you can disseminate.
Okay. Let's move on to Thank you, Joe. Let's move on to PD Lloyd. And I see some more hands have come up. We still have 4 and 5 left to go. Okay, PD Lloyd, go ahead.
Yes, a quick one to for you.
No, sorry, is this PD Lloyd?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. In the new act, is there age-related renewal of driver's license? I heard they were talk that if you're over a certain age, you might have to renew your driver's license. Is it this in the law?
I didn't get that far in it, but I heard that there's some thing to that effect. And the fact that you have a driver's license doesn't mean that it is automatically renewed, because you have to bear in mind that as we get older and older, our level of visibility as well as audio will or is likely to become impaired or change for an adverse situation. And so there could be some requirements there. I'll look at that aspect again. Well, look at it. I didn't look at all of them.
Okay, thank you. And I'm gonna ask no more hands coming up. I know who's the last right now. Okay, that's an iPhone is last right now. Please don't, no more after that. J. Lou, if I pronounced it correctly.
Yes, sir. Good evening to everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good evening, sir.
A number of questions, but I can see that we're running out of time.
Yeah.
As it relates
limited to one for me.
This new legislation, did they put in it anything to do with the level of corruption that is all over in the oil traffic business? Because with the astronomical increase to these fines, I think the people would prefer to pay the police than to really go and pay all of this. And so I heard recently that
Jello, I can stop you right there. That would not be the essence of the legislation. The legislation is to target motorists. The Road Traffic Act is to target motorists. Okay, and that is not part of the legislation. It's really to target motorists to ensure that you comply in terms of your documents, your use of the road, ensure that the relevant fees and so forth are paid, and for you to drive properly on the road. So if you drive carelessly, recklessly, not having the proper fixtures on your vehicle, etc., that's what the road code is about. All right. But if there is corruption, then we have the common law. Because if you bribe a policeman and he takes the bribe and he's caught, or you bribe a tax office official, or a combination of any person, including the examiner or anyone at the examination depot, right? Then, you know, there's a common law offense of perverting the course of justice.
So, but, you know, I think, you know, all of these things still contribute to the level of the indiscipline that we see exhibiting on our roads, because when you go to the examination depot to get tested for a driver's license, and the examiner deliberately hold you off from getting the license, even if you could have gotten it, just too frustrated to pay some money for it, that in itself start the indiscipline right there, because a lot of these people, most people since the last couple of decades, get driver's license and don't never even look in a road code book and understand what the marking on the road is all about.
Yeah, that's true. But once there is, if there's any level of corruption and it is detected, and the MOCA, Major Anti-Crime Corruption Agency, gets in, or any arm of the police force, then, and if they see an offense that has been established, then they can, do what is necessary, right?
Yes, the last thing though, this whole business about comply and then complain. If the police might approach you for your documents, and as you said earlier, it shouldn't be arbitrarily done. Should we just comply and then complain after?
Well, I would say it is a matter for you.
Okay, thank you for that. Next person, Pringle.
Good evening. My understanding is that the Jamaica Constabulary Force Act give the police some authority to regulate traffic. And if your law requires a person to have a driver's license, and that in itself is a protection of the public safety, then I can't see why the police can't enforce that law by asking you to produce a driver's license to ensure that you do have one under the Jamaica Constabulary Force Act, irrespective of what Justice Bat say. Justice Bat ruling was much more than about stopping a vehicle. It was search and the harassing of the people and all that kind of stuff. But I think that in the protection of the public, the Constabulary Force Act does authorize the officer to stop you with a warrant and ask you for your driver's license. And the reasonable cause thing is so subjective that what is reasonable cause? I mean, are there not reasonable cause?
Well, Pringle, you did say that the police can stop it with a warrant. Is that what you said?
Without a warrant, under the JCF Act, it can. If my recollection, some years ago, I did see something like that.
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly what section it is.
But the same act also goes on to speak about reasonable cause.
Yes.
That would be inconsistent and incongruent with Section 16 of the Constitution and also Section 15. And so there is a reason why the Charter of Rights was established. And the law is very clear that no act or law must be inconsistent with the Constitution. You can't have the Constitution on the left-hand side saying that the citizen has the right to freedom of movement. He has the right to freedom of his liberty. He has the right to move anywhere in Jamaica. He has the right to live anywhere in Jamaica. And then you have another act, which is the Jamaica Constabulary Force Act, which says that the police can just arbitrarily do that. No.
I don't think those rights are absolute.
Which one carries?
Yeah, well, the late Prime Minister, Most Honorable Edward Siaga, would say, no, thank you, don't think so. So I'm saying that they must be read conjunctively and not conjointly and not distractly.
Yeah, but the reasonable cause is subjective. I mean, in the interest of the public, I want to see your driver's license. That's the reasonable cause.
No,
so
but, for what reason?
For what reason?
We want to ensure that you're driving.
So you're going to stop every car?
You're going to stop every car? No, you must have a reason.
Come on.
Yeah,
you must have a reason.
I'm just saying
you must have a reason.
All right, we're going to have to, Horace, Pringle, we're going to have to stop it there because I think we're going down a road that doesn't make, all right, not required. Roshane.
Yes, good night. I think that Pringle would have asked the question that I was going to ask. Because in essence, if it is an offense to operate a motor vehicle without a driver's license, as well as without fitness and registration and the insurance document, the requisite insurance documents, what exactly empowers police officers to ensure that motorists are compliant? And by compliant, I mean that these documents are in place.
No, but you identifying one person is very random. Correct. It would mean that you need to stop every single vehicle to adjudicate on that specific concern.
Correct.
And that is not practical, nor that's not what is envisioned by the legislation or the regulation.
Or the Constitution.
Or the Constitution.
Correct.
Because everybody, you would have that suspicion. So you must stop every vehicle. Traffic stop for days and years.
But it's just the same way you're unable to stop all motorists who are speeding.
No, there's nothing that brings that to your attention for you to isolate me out of the traffic.
All right, let us take the last two, just because their hands were up. No, let's move on. We have last two. Michael, is it Michael Lee?
That's correct, Michael Lee.
Okay.
Right. So a mention was made about an abstract or a document that needs to be requested for a driver.
Yeah.
Did it speak to exactly where that document should be provided from?
You can go to the Transport Authority and ask for it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. And the last one is iPhone. Not sure your name. I could identify yourself.
Maybe don't know too.
iPhone.
That person with a very important question.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
All
Hello.
right.
Good evening.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Omar Francis here. Good
this
evening.
is iPhone. Okay.
iPhone. Omar Francis.
All right.
One quick question I wanted to ask, and I noticed nobody mentioned it. Does these special zones that we're now operating on affects our right to freedom of movement or passage? For example, spot checks in Zozos. I mean,
yes, they do. Yes,
that was addressed. That was addressed.
And I did address it, but in case you didn't hear, these are special regulations, and so the police and the security forces have the right. They have the right to search with a warrant, without warrant, as the SOE is within the particular area that the person is in. Now, the Constitution speaks to the freedom of movement, but again, that is also now the regulation, the SOE, regulation has also given the Prime Minister the power and the authority, once he has passed that regulation, for the security forces to be almost powerful, really. So they can, exercise their right to search, the person, etc. And once they do that, they will be well within their rights, as long as they don't abuse it.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. No more questions. No more questions. Please. No more questions. President Junior, could you just introduce the person who's going to do the thank you? That's Rupert Whitaker, DP Rupert. All right, DP Rupert, can you come in?
Yeah, thank you, DP Stewart.
Okay, go ahead.
DLG Anthony, good to see you.
My pleasure.
Council boy, you took us to school. At one time, at one stage, I hear you talking Latin. I hear you talking English. I hear you talking Jamaican, and I hear you talking Patois. But thanks. It has been a wonderful time listening to you, and I must confess, I may have been walking blind, because some of these things that I heard and we heard tonight, we didn't pay attention to it or to them. I just want to thank you. There are several thanks I want to give on behalf of all of us tonight, sir.
Yes.
Firstly, thanks for opening our eyes so that we can see a little bit better where the road traffic regulation is concerned. Because when you're blind, the risk increase, and willful blindness won't get us anywhere. So thank you for that.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for the great words, sir.
And let me just go ahead, finish.
We thank the gentleman for the wonderful specimen below his nose, but we also thank him for the wonderful specimen between his two ears. Keep up the good work, sir.
Okay. Thank you, DP Rupert. Let me just add, I should have had a certificate of appreciation. I must admit that it slipped me. That's not a normal occurrence, but I will do it and get it to you.
No
Thank
problem,
you very
sir.
much.
No
Okay.
I trust I was of I trust I was of assistance to many. And
Definitely.
if you have any questions, any concerns, anything, you can always call me. I'm listed in the directory as well, and I will guarantee prompt return call or message. I am a litigation lawyer, so I spend 5% of my time in the court. So if you don't get me, don't worry, I will do my best to return the call or the message. I may not have the answer for you right away. Oftentimes I do, but you know, no man is an island, no man stands alone. But I will do my best to assist in whatever clarification.
Thank you very much. President Junior, over to you. President Junior?
Muted, President, you're muted. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. And we now just move to the Sergeant. Sergeant, are you on? Zoro?
Oh, sir, forget you.
All right, so have a long night. Notices and announcement and interclubbing opportunities. LGE, Desmond. Is still there, LGE?
Move on.
Anybody else have any notice to like to bring at this time?
President Junior.
Yes.
Chris Robinson. Just wishing to remind members of the service leadership program that we have a meeting on Thursday evening. The Zoom link has already been sent out.
Somebody has a mic open.
So please, I'm asking persons to attend that meeting. It's a very important meeting. You know, this term is always an important term for us for the service leadership program. So we have a number of things to discuss. So I trust to see the members on Thursday evening, 7 o'clock, and the Zoom link, as I said, has already been sent out. Thank you.
President Junior.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what. Thank you. Anybody else would like to make any announcement quickly?
Yes, President Junior.
Yes.
Director Roy from Toronto, Caribbean. We're inviting you to our meeting on Friday, the 20th. We'll be having a guest speaker, former MP, Selena Cesar Chavez.
Right.
She was like a parliamentary secretary to Justin Trudeau.
Okay.
It's going to be an informative meeting.
Okay.
Good.
Ear fear. That's it, ear fear, right?
Online. All right.
President Junior, I'm not sure if it was mentioned before in this meeting, but just using the opportunity to, this is PVP Mark from North St. Andrew, just reminding all Kiwanians of the Kiwanis Club of North St. Andrew sensational solar raffle. I think by now everyone should be aware. Certainly looking forward for you to engage DP Michael. Reach out to him for your booklets for tickets, and there's a 50% discount for our Kiwanis family.
Okay. Thank you. Any other? Chairman DP.
I'm sorry. I think the way he put it might be misleading. It's not a discount, but we get to keep 50% as a fundraising effort. It might sound like you're selling it at half price. I wouldn't want people to get that impression. Okay, Mark.
Right.
Okay. My time now then, President.
Your time.
Okay. All right, I just have two short ones. The first one, there is nothing more dangerous than sincere ignorance. It actually says and stupidity, but I don't want to put in the stupidity part. I think sincere ignorance is fine. And the other one is being full of yourself leaves little room for input by others. So those are my two thoughts, President.
Thank you. If there's nothing else to discuss, I'd just like to terminate this meeting at this point in time. We'll all raise our glasses and drink a toast to Kiwanis International, Jamaica land we love.
And we love.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming. Our number rose to over 200 tonight. That just to show you how interesting the presentation was. Thank you all, and a very good night to you all. And thank you to our